Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Achieve More podcast. My name is Anthony. You can find me on YouTube at Picksburgh, where I do weekly vlogs with my girlfriend where we travel and do fun stuff. And it's also the video home of the Achieve More podcast. If you want to see how incredibly handsome Michael and I are, and especially our guest today, he's one handsome son of a gun. So you're going to have to come over to Picksburgh if you want to see how strikingly handsome we are. But with that being said, my co-host is Michael over there at Huddle Card Collection. How you doing today, Michael?
Great, Anthony. How are you, buddy?
Doing great, brother. Anything new happening over on Huddle Card?
Man, I'll just say, look, if you enjoy sports cards, sport collecting, selling, talking about the hobby, and even talking about sports overall, come on over to Hull Card. We do live podcast Wednesday nights, 10 p.m. excuse me, called Collecting Profit. By the time this one comes out, we should be over 100 episodes.
Congratulations on that.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Without further ado, we have a very special guest. We have a community builder of sorts with us. We have what I consider to be a good friend of not only my channel, but good friend in real life. This is somebody that I actually get to see at sports card shows and out and about around Pennsylvania. This is Blaise McCoy from Blaised Radio.
Thanks for having me on, man. Means a lot. As I've told you guys a lot, I love spreading good word and hoping to affect some people in a positive way. So after seeing you guys start this podcast, meeting Michael through the cards through Anthony, and meeting Anthony through the cards and through YouTube and through mutual friends we didn't even know we had. And I had the pleasure of interviewing Anthony last year, and now returning the favor. So I'm glad to be here. Can't wait.
Yeah, man, we're excited to have you. If you could tell everybody about your YouTube channel and anything that you'd like to promote.
So, I mean, before going into the YouTube channel, I kind of feel like I should tell how I got onto YouTube as well, because it's a very strange story. It's not like I set out to say, hey, I'm going to do YouTube and this is what I'm going to do on YouTube. I kind of stumbled into it, but it's kind of weird because I think I'm using more of my marketing degree now than I did with the three major corporations that I worked for in my retail career. So coming out of college, I went to, not a lot of people know of, Indiana University of Pennsylvania, IUP, not to be confused with IU, but it was a smaller school that was an hour and a half away from where I live. Like I could have went to Penn State, I could have went to West Virginia, I could have went to Pitt, and I could have went to California University of Pennsylvania, which was really close. But I wanted to get far enough away where I could start my life experiences without my family and do it on my own. But I wanted to be close enough that I could come home and give my mom my laundry every weekend too, if I needed to, and get some home cooking food. So it took me an extra semester at IUP to graduate, but I graduated in 95. And yes, I am 51 years old for those that are watching this, not listening. Sometimes I feel a lot younger than I look, and sometimes I look a little younger than I feel, if that makes sense. But coming out of college, I was a big sports fan through before high school. Actually, baseball and basketball were my main things. I'm 6'3", a tall, lanky guy, and I loved playing basketball. I loved playing baseball. I was a first baseman, and I started out at shortstop, and I fell in love with first base. Don Mattingly was my favorite baseball player back in the day. So I wanted to be a first baseman. Later in my career, I liked playing the outfield. So I liked center field. Ricky Henderson was one of my favorite players as well. Yes, I am a Pirate fan here in Pittsburgh, but a lot of people in Pittsburgh know that's tough. So I kind of fell in love with the Yankees as well a little bit back in the day. And it's not just because of their championships. It was because of some of my favorite players were on the team at the time. So unfortunately, in high school, I had 2 or 3 injuries. My freshman year, I got a ruptured spleen in a basketball game. And that put me on the sidelines for months. And luckily, it wasn't bad enough for surgery, but it was bad enough that I was out of the game even into my 10th grade and 11th grade year. I was shorter. I didn't get a growth spurt until my senior year. And by the time I was a senior, my sophomore year, I had a broken collarbone playing pickup football. So it was one thing after another. I can't even count on my fingers how many times I've twisted my ankles and been in air casts and stuff because of basketball. But I am living proof that white man can jump. I used to be able to dunk a ball in a 10-foot rim. second place in a dunk competition in college outside. Well, and I came to the dunk competition on crutches. I had twisted my ankle in a 3-on-3 tournament, but my friend was like, dude, you have to get in this dunk competition. Now, I will be honest, the rim was maybe 9'10", a couple inches lower than 10 feet. But I put on a show. It was something I'm really proud of, that I'm a very humble person. I don't like bragging. So this is very awkward to me to talk about myself, but I do want to share my life experiences in hopes to maybe enlighten someone else and realize no matter how far you can go down, you can come back up. So after the injuries, I tried out for baseball my senior year, and they put me with the JV because they didn't know who I was. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to go back and play summer baseball and enjoy it. And then when I went up for the basketball team, pretty much the same thing happened. My parents weren't boosters. I wasn't in the loop. I haven't played for the 4 years. So they stuck me with the JV team. And this is when I still, like I said, I didn't hit my growth spurt. I was still under 6 foot tall. I was a point guard. So they're putting me with my little brother's friends that are like juniors, freshmen, and sophomores. I was like, you know what? Then I was like, you know what? I'm going to stick this out. I'm going to prove to them that I can do this, that I got game, and I can prove it. Then when they went to take the picture for the yearbook, they left me out. And I was like, that's the final straw. If I'm not going to get I could tell I'm not going to get a fair shot. So I went and played church league ball, 20, 25 points a game. Everywhere I played, I led my team. And I love being a leader, but on a podcast that I do every Wednesday called Pick and Roll about NBA, I wanted to bring up that as a star player on a team, it's nice when you hit that zone and you can't miss a shot. But what I enjoyed even more is when my fellow players that didn't do that well sometimes got in the zone, and then you could feed them the ball and help them become, better than they knew they could be. So I always loved helping the team aspect. I like to think, and I thought about this after my retail career, I went right into Champ Sports Management program because I love sports. And I was like, first job, one of the first jobs opportunity I saw was Champ Sports Management opportunity. I'm like, what can be better than running my own sporting goods store?
Mm-hmm.
So throughout all the different places, this is back when malls were a thing. So I was an assistant manager and through the training in all these different places in Pittsburgh. And I'll never forget, once my training was done, I got a call from my district manager and said, let me ask you a question. You're done. You're ready for a store? And I'm like, yeah, I'd love to have a store. What part of Pittsburgh are you going to send me to? And he goes, well, are you a Notre Dame fan? And I went, no, not at all. I was like, I'm Penn State. I'm not a big Notre Dame fan at all. But what do you mean? He was like, we have a brand new store opening in Elkhart, Indiana, right outside of South Bend, about half an hour from Chicago. And I was like, he's like, you'll be right an hour or so from Indianapolis, a couple hours from Detroit, Chicago. And I'm like, that's an experience I just can't pass up. Right. So packed up my little Dodge Daytona with everything I had, hit I-80 through Ohio and then into Indiana. And I'm looking around going, farms, factories, farms. What did I get myself into? But it was such an experience that I had no assistant manager for the first 2 months. So I was working, they call bell to bell, 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. every day for the first month or two. I had to hire my own staff. So I hired my own staff from people that I had no clue what they were like. Like Pittsburgh, we're a bunch of brash, Yinzer type, hey, you. And Indiana, they were boring to me. They were good, nice people, but it was boring. Plus, there was no hills, no valleys. It was all flat, but we dealt with tornadoes and the sunsets were beautiful. But a couple years, my initial shipment got robbed. My employees were stealing from me right off the bat. So,
oh, wow.
So I thought, and I lost my first audit, cases of shoes were gone. And I'm thinking, did I get into the wrong profession? Is something wrong? I had to get through it. And the other managers were so supportive, helping me get through that and learn the ins and outs. And being a retail manager, especially on my own like that, you learn everything there is about running a business. All the finances, all the projecting, all the sales, the day-to-days, trying to hit your year-over-year number, managing people, which is something I pride myself in doing. I'm a people person that sometimes doesn't like people. but as I had 5 years in Champs, I moved on to Fort Wayne, Indiana, which back then was the biggest Champs store in Indiana. So I took on a $2 million store, which back then was a lot of money. kind of still is today, but according to retail locations, it was one of the biggest stores. And I took that on for 2 or 3 years with all intents and purposes that my district manager was bringing me back to the Pittsburgh market as soon as the store opened. In the meantime, at Fort Wayne, which is literally, not far from Michigan border, when I was in Elkhart, I could walk to Michigan because it was literally right on I-80. I could walk a mile or two and I'm in the state of Michigan. So my district, I became a market leader before a district manager. So I had 4 stores, 2 in Detroit, 2 in Indiana, so I had to travel and 1 in Ohio, 1 in Toledo. So I would travel to these stores and check up with them once a month. So I got to know and meet so many people out there. It was crazy because there was a ton of Steeler fans in Fort Wayne, Indiana. I mean, people would come and be like, how'd you get all these Steeler jerseys and everything up here? And I'm like, well, I'm from Pittsburgh. And as much as they love the Colts out there too, they love the Steelers. And I was surprised by that. And little did I know my district manager wasn't bringing me back to Pittsburgh. But the Detroit district manager wanted me to get into district manager training.
Oh, wow.
And I'm like, so I can go up to Detroit, live in upper Michigan, not really in inner city. They were offering me a really nice spot to go into district manager training. But in the same time, I thought, let me at least check the job market back in Pittsburgh. So I did that as well. And I came across, and I was one of those champ sports managers where I love the product. So I was big into shoes. The jerseys were big back then, even more than now. And, it was like if we had a sale on rollerblades, I'd tell one of my employees, grab a pair of rollerblades, put them on, roll around. That's a good advertisement. Every Sunday, if you make me work a Sunday during football, I'm upset. So I'm going to make it fun. We put the game on the radio, and I told people, grab a jersey off the rack. Keep the tag on it because I'm probably going to resell it anyway. We all wore jerseys. We all wore jerseys to go and try to, promote whatever we were selling. And I mean, there were a lot of 16-year-old, 17-year-old kids in their first job, Then I had those assistant managers that I had to train to become a manager. So there was so much responsibility. And I was thinking about going to the Detroit area and being a district manager, but then I got a job in Monroeville, right outside of Pittsburgh, at Gateway Computers. If you guys remember the cow boxes for computers.
Oh, yeah, Gateway, yep.
So same idea. It was a management training program. I'd go right in as a salesperson. But within the first year, if I did well, I'd be a manager. So I became an assistant manager there. And that was all mail order. So we didn't have any inventory. All we had was stations showing you. And not only did we have to sell, we had to educate because this is before the PC boom. People didn't have computers. Yeah. So I don't know if you guys remember when the government gave like tax breaks for PCs because they wanted everyone to have a PC. And this is around the year 2000. I actually remember when 9/11 happened because I was on my way to Monroeville when I was listening to Howard Stern. And he had Pamela Anderson on. I'll never forget. He had Pamela Anderson on that day. Of course, you won't forget that. And when I come into work on our big screen TV for the one computer we had, I saw the towers on fire. And I'm like, little did they know when that second plane was heading towards Pittsburgh and crashed not too far outside of Pittsburgh, they all sent us home. They didn't know what was going on. So neither here nor there. I was there for a while at Gateway training people how, like when people come in, you got to tell them what is RAM, what is hard drive space. These people had no clue, so, and we did training classes in the back and such. And then the company actually switched to having inventory and me having retail inventory experience. They put me in charge of that, and one of the most fascinating parts I think of that job was the people who fixed the computers, our maintenance people. Because they tore them apart and put them back together. And I was always fascinated going over there and watching them tear computers apart, build them back together and such. So I sold PCs during the PC boom, which I was very lucky to do. My next job, I went back to my hometown to work for Verizon Wireless, selling cell phones during the smartphone boom. So needless to say, a lot of people that say their 401k, my 401k was wonderful because of these major corporations backing me. And the experience that I got from all 3 of those companies, Verizon for a good while, and all 3 of these companies, I must have been doing something right because they wanted me in upper management and then district manager. But I was just happy at the assistant manager or management level. I was making enough money to feed my family, put food on the table, put a roof above my head. And I loved being in the dirt with them. And as you go to you see what the upper management is like, it just wasn't for me. So, after 10 years of Verizon and 20 plus years in retail, I had some health issues. I have bad discs. I have degenerative disc disease in my neck and my back. My lower back which causes shoulder issues, back issues. Like right now, my back is out because I was streaming for 7 hours on Saturday and 3.5 yesterday of doing football. And it's my fault because I know if I'm sitting for a really long time, my back will go out. And it's like, I can't even stand up without pain. So, after trying job after job, leaving Verizon and trying other jobs, I just couldn't sit for all day for a job, so I was ahead of the game whenever, and I hate to say anything good came out of COVID, but I was ahead of the game when it comes to working at home. So I started at home. I was like, what can I do at home to try to supplement not being able to go out and drive? And if I drive for a half an hour, I'm in pain, for the next 3 days or so. It takes a while. So I had to learn to live with that. And along with that comes anxiety and depression, thinking, are you good enough anymore? What happened to me? I used to be this and now I'm this. So I was thrown a curveball by the Lord, and I had to try to figure out how to hit that ball. And if you see this big crooked nose, I got hit with a baseball when I played as a kid. It was a curveball that didn't curve. It knocked me completely out. My nose was, and that's beside the other injuries I told you about. So I'm very injury prone. My nose was literally over here on the side of my face. And if you remember the Elephant Man movie with the guy with the deformed face, that's what I look like in the mirror. My nose was way over here before the surgery. And I'm thinking, once again, that depression, that anxiety hits you like, why am I going through this? Why would anyone have to deal with this? I didn't do anything wrong. So they broke it, reset it. I'm Polish. I got a big hunky nose anyway. So it's what it is. So I'm one of those people that have learned to just roll with the punches and try to make the best out of whatever life gives you. Right. So I've been married twice, and for whatever reason I wasn't, but I learned from both of my wives. From the first one, I learned a lot about autism. She was a teacher that took care of autistic kids. So I saw everything from the savant autistic children and people that are just brilliant to the nonverbal that can barely talk, that just moan, that need help every day with everything. So the understanding of mental and physical disabilities from learning from what she went through, I still use to this day within my community to try to get other people to understand. I always say, consider it, be considerate. You never know what someone's going through or what they've gone through before. That's one of my little sayings. And it's weird. I'm a very prepared person. I'm used to having notes and everything in front of me for what I'm going to talk about. So I don't here today. And it's like, just wing it. But to bring it full circle, now at home, I have a lot of collectibles. And I'm like, I could get an eBay page. I have a marketing degree. I was always big in graphic design. I can create logos. So I got a TeePublic store to sell logos and t-shirts and merchandise, so I tried to use whatever the stuff I had here to make some extra money to make it through. And there was a point in time right before COVID where my sickness got so bad that it got a hold of me. It was because I have irritable bowel, I have stomach disease as well. So eating everything hurts. My mornings are miserable. So like, couple that with a mild case of spina bifida and bad and degenerative disc disease. I was walking with a cane for a summer. I mean, I literally didn't get out of bed. I didn't eat for weeks. I had to, luckily I was blessed that my mother can come and help me for a couple of weeks. And a lot of people would have given up in that situation. I was close to it. I was really close to it, but I was raised right. I was taught right. And my dad once came over here, and he's a tough old SOB. And he just said, just fight it. Just fight it. And that just rang in my head constantly, that I needed to continue to fight and make something out of the ball of crap I was given, for lack of a better term. And so as a sports fan, I was also a fan of pro wrestling. So I don't know if you remember magazines. There was this thing called magazines back in the day. And wrestling magazines, I loved them. And I found this thing called the IWA, which is the Imaginary Wrestling Association. You put your name of your character. It was like Dungeons and Dragons for wrestling fans. You put the name of your character, where they're from, what kind of fighter they are, and you pick a bunch of moves. Then this is before the internet. This is in the 80s, 86, 85. You put it in the mail and you send it to Ohio, wherever it was. They would send it back to you with like a booklet and tell you who fought who in that match card, what happened, who won. So it was like a Dungeons and Dragons game that you play. And you paid a couple bucks a month just for the shipping of the paper and everything, which is similar to fantasy football, because I played fantasy football when it was on paper too. You had to wait for that Tuesday USA Today and all that. And I actually worked for a newspaper for a while and physically put together a sports page, like the old sports. I mean, they still have it, but newspapers aren't as predominant. But literally cutting and pasting without a computer, physically making the sports scoreboard and shooting it in a dark room was one of my favorite jobs when I first started out. So the wrestling video game thing turned into a video game because I wanted to do my own. They call it electronic federations and eFed. So this is back in AOL.com, AOL Instant Messenger, and message boards, where internet wasn't video form. It was mostly text, so these eFeds started popping up. And I was like, Mark Madden, who was an announcer from Pittsburgh, they had one, all these. And so you get into this, you create your own character. And I keep using the Dungeons and Dragons simile because it's just like that. Now it's on a message board on a website where you can type in your promo for your character, and then they put a show together and show it. And it was all text, unless you knew HTML, you could link a picture or something like that. So you literally I learned some HTML through these little eFeds. You started meeting these people from all over the place that were playing this game because it was internet based. So I started my own and brought people in. And for maybe a year in 2002 and 2003, I met people from the UK, from New Zealand, from Canada, and all that. And you take it for a grain of salt because people can lie and say they're from wherever. But one of the things that I do as a weakness, if you're going to ask me about weaknesses, is I take everything for what I look for the good in everything.
Yeah.
So I give everybody the benefit of the doubt, sometimes to a fault. And so the honesty that I got through this and the fun that people coming together, it only lasted 2 years. Then I got into my retail job and all that stuff. In about 2015 in Facebook, I started getting all these messages. Hey, I used to be in this eFed with you. Do you remember it? Yeah. Why don't you start it back up here on Facebook? And I'm like, I don't know. Then I got like 5 more messages from other people. Let's bring it back. The people because I had writers. I would literally have 4 people that would write the matches for me and explain what's going on, because it was on text, no video. So I found this game on Facebook called Wrestler Unstoppable, which is linked to Facebook. And it was kind of like an eFed, but you literally in the video game attached to Facebook, you would tell them what move you want to do next. And it just had one picture of the 2 wrestlers and it told you who won. But there was all these message boards where people can enhance their character and do this and that and drop promos. And I was like, this is really cool. Then I fell upon someone who made a custom entrance on the WWE 2K video game on YouTube. So I'm like, what is this? It's one of the guys from this Electronic Federation. And here he is, his character coming to life, coming down to the ring. And I'm like, that's cool. So I start searching YouTube. And I found 2 or 3 people that were putting complete shows together based on this WWE 2K game. And when I tell people I do gaming, I'm not a gamer. I don't play this game at all. I use the creation part of it to create unique individuals, unique arenas, unique situations, unique match cards, and just bring people together from all over the world and just let their characters go at it. So I found another guy who's doing the commentary. So he's letting the game play, but he's doing this wild commentary, and I'm like, this is really cool. And I fell in love with it. And I thought, I was noticing people can get monetized on YouTube and you can make a little extra money. That's not why I got into it, but I started to bring together all these people again. And that's kind of how my YouTube channel started. And I mean, I was talking to my mom one time and I said, Mom, every one of my jobs felt like it was a family because we had a
Yeah.
family atmosphere at Champs. We had a family atmosphere at Gateway. We had a family atmosphere and had fun at Verizon. But I was too humble to realize it was me. It was the way I ran the store, the way I treated older people like my grandparents, younger people like my nephews and nieces, people my age like my peers. And I respect everyone. I always say, no matter who you are, what you are, where you are, or how you are, you're welcome in my community. And I didn't want to alienate anybody. And then it brings back a lot of people that are on YouTube all the time or were consistently there. I could tell they were homebound. So as I got to know these people, physically disabled people, autism, MS, people with that have seizures and all this stuff. Like I've met all these people that they could say they were dealt a bad deal, a bad deck of cards, bad hand in life. But I wanted to help them forget about the real world for a while and just have fun. So people are like, oh, you're a gamer, this and that. No, I'm here just to play this video game and bring people together. And I will do the commentary and try to make it as fun as possible. Like some of the stuff you won't hear from regular commentary, I'll say. I'll leave that.
Yeah, that is true. That is definitely true.
Yeah, so I wanted to give them a television experience with the video game and let them realize it's not all about winning or losing, because all you're doing is creating a character and submitting it. You're going to lose more times than you win. And some of the people that I've met, like if you asked me when I started YouTube about people, long distance internet relationships, I say, you got to meet the person. You got to shake their hand. You got to hug them. You got to look them literally in the eye to get to know them. I was wrong. I've made some of the best friends in the world. I told you I'd get emotional. When I was down and out, it was the people in my community that made me want to have a second chance, that made me realize it wasn't worth giving up. I've lost a lot of friends to drug overdose, suicide, and things where they think it's not worth it anymore. That life, it's just not going to get any better. That's not true. All those sayings, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, and all, it's all true. You have to live through the bad to get to the good. And I was raised the right way to realize that, I could easily say, why didn't my marriage work out? Why didn't my retail career work out? Why didn't my sports career work out? Because I was very talented at what I did in baseball and basketball, but it didn't work out for whatever reason. So I was put here on this desk, all my collectibles, selling them on eBay, selling my designs on TeePublic and stuff like that, bringing people together. The next thing you know, my channel got monetized. People told me I wouldn't be able to do it. You're not going to be able to bring more than 50 different people together and have fun here. Too many differences. And I said, I will. I'll prove you wrong. And once I got monetized, it was weird to ask for money, but once you need the lighting rig and a better PC and applications like StreamYard's here to stream and do your product even better, I realized I needed some help. So I got monetized, I got memberships, but I didn't want to alienate the people who couldn't pay me $1 or $5 a month or whatever, or super chat money here and donate. I don't ask for donations, but if they can, they will. And for those that aren't watching, I have a shirt that says loyalty is currency, and it means a lot to me. If you're watching on YouTube, if you can't monetarily support someone's channel, leaving comments, dropping a thumbs up, sharing it out to other people to bring more people, that helps a channel. And using this platform on YouTube and the internet to bring people together, that's why I'm here. I mean, I don't know how else to say it. But being an emotional person that only sees the good in people and wants to give everybody the benefit of doubt, you're very easily taken advantage of. You can be manipulated.
True.
And I have been. And I'll say that's something that I had to go through to get thicker skin, and realize that you're not going to please everybody all the time, but it doesn't mean you shouldn't try. So I think I've turned something that could have been something horrible, could have ended my life or put me, in a bed forever if I didn't get up, get on that bike, walk around, get energized. Like, I used to be able to dunk a basketball in a 10-foot rim. I used to be able to hit a home run or dive for a ball in the outfield. I think a lot of that jumping might have been part of the reason that my back is so bad. But as a 6'2" guy dunking on a basketball, it's a lot of impact coming back down. But my channel went from just that wrestling game to basketball podcasts every Wednesday, talking about the NBA, which I love. NFL Red Zone podcast every Sunday, where I do play-by-play for NFL games. Like, and it took a while because after the first few shows, people were like, "You're funny. You're silly and funny. You're making me laugh." And or you're really good at commentary. You have that radio voice. You should be a commentator somewhere or whatever. And a little side story, that one of the ways I met Anthony was through the indie pro wrestling scene here in Pittsburgh. And I have some friends around here, and we did a wrestling podcast for a while talking about pro wrestling, because I had three guys that were literally in the business, fought in the ring, ran a company, did all the dirty work. And I was just a fan, the host of the show. And I loved doing it for a while. And that opened a door to be a ring announcer in a live event. So I got to travel to a small city and do ring announcing once while I was in a band. I'm a drummer also, so I got to be a drummer. So, I mean, as much as I can say I didn't get to do things, I was a father, I was a dad, I was a teacher, I was a boss, I was a coach. I coached high school basketball. I'm very blessed for what I do have. So I think my message I want to give everyone is to try to think about the good things in life, not worry about the bad things. You can't control things. Why worry and spend your whole life trying to stop the things you can't control? You deal with it, you overcome, and you try to find a way to make your life worth something and help people. So I've achieved a little more than I supposed to, and I started doing interviews. Like, when I was in retail, that's what you do to hire people. What do? You got to interview them first, right?
Yeah, talk to them.
Tell them, sell me this pen or whatever, and all the old, tell me about your weaknesses, tell me about your strengths. Why should I hire you? All those types of questions. But the one thing that I like to do in interviews, and I brought it to my channel as well, was situational based interviews. Tell me about a time this, or tell me about a time that you took a negative situation and turned it into a positive situation. Like, put people in situations they will deal with on that job and see how they react. So I brought all that stuff that I've been through to my YouTube channel, and the messages that I get, and that 3-hour conversation with my friend when I thought my life was done at 40. I thought I was finished. I thought I'm going to be in a hospital bed for the rest of my life, not be able to walk and whatever. But my father and good friends, family, and faith is what got me through all that. And if I'm not sharing my story to help people, what am I doing here? There's so much negativity on the internet, on YouTube. There's always going to be someone that's going to want to try to bring you down, piss on your parade, for lack of a better term. Unfortunately, there are people out there that just want to do bad just for the sake of doing it. And I've dealt with the trolls on YouTube, people coming in with the racial slurs and all the crap that, you have to. And I used to let it affect me. Back before they took away the dislike, I was getting someone coming in and 10 dislikes every show. And I'm like, I don't get it. Everyone's telling me I'm doing a great job. I should be an announcer. I'm bringing people together. We're having fun. But my fear wasn't that some random person was doing that it was someone within my community.
Yeah.
There was like a mole that, was just jealous and wanted to bring me down, that knew that I had emotional issues that came along with everything that I went through. I've been through therapy. I wasn't ashamed to go get help, which a lot of men aren't, because they want to be macho. I could do it myself. No, if you have mental problems that bring you down or make you feel like you're not worth enough, go get help. It could be from a family member, a friend, or a professionalist. I was lucky enough to have a therapist through my divorce and through, the health issues, that understood me. And that always uplifted me and told me that there will be a better day. Yep. And sometimes you're thinking that light at the tunnel is a train coming right back at you. But it wasn't. You have to find a way to get past that train. And I'm a talker, as you see, as those out there. And that's why, I mean, to be a YouTuber, to be a commentator, you should be a bullshitter, someone who likes to talk a lot, someone who likes to, sorry, you might have to bleep that. Someone who likes to just be himself and bring happiness to people. I mean, like I said, there's too much negativity in the world. And there's a little saying that I say all the time, and I'm going to have to dig it up so I get it right. Life's about what you do. Hold on. There's wait. Keep in mind, the world may be crumbling around us, but life's about what we do with the moments we have left. So live every day like it's your last. I told you it's going to be tough.
Yeah, that's good.
Well, what they say is, it's the dash that counts, right?
Yeah.
Like when you look at it, when you're looking at it, you have that day when you are blessed to, come to this earth. You have that day when you had to leave, but that dash in the middle, that really is the most important part of life.
And when there's a message you want to get across, I'm the type of person that I write everything down. I'm old school. I got notes upon notes upon notes. And, to remember, this is like a closing to my show that I used to say all the time. And you are exactly the way you're supposed to be. Nobody's perfect. It's everyone has mistakes. It's how you react to those mistakes that matters. Be yourself and treat others the way you want to be treated. I mean, that's the golden rule. Considerate, be considerate. You never know what someone's been through, what they're going through. We all have our demons. We all have our crosses to bear.
To your point, when you think about from a standpoint of it is just as easy to say something good as it is say something, derogatory and like that. So why bother even saying something derogatory? Just say something that's cool. You don't have to go ahead and, you don't have to go ahead and be, ugly just to be ugly. To your point, I can never understand that. You said about the YouTube and everything. I was on the other night and two people showed up and, and then, the one thing is when you do YouTube for a little bit, even though I'm nowhere near, what you guys do, when you get somebody that comes into your live stream, you could kind of tell right away which way that person is going to go just by the first, couple of comments, and I was fortunate. I had one of my mods is, I have, we're friends. I had his text message and I had his email, his phone. And I just said to him, I said, hey, do what you got to do. Cause obviously, I'm in the middle of the show and stuff. So I can't do anything, but it's like, to your point, why? What's the benefit? You're trying to be a comedian and it's not funny and stuff. So who really cares and everything?
I take it as a challenge anymore, though, because if you go back to my selling experience, and a manager told me this once, and it rings really, really true now. If someone comes into your store and says, I want this, 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 and this, let's go. That's easy. All you're doing is clerking. You're ringing them up. But but from computers to, I've had cell phones thrown at me, told me, you sold me this piece of crap and you're going to fix it. Or why is my bill high? You guys are ripping me off. Or, I'm returning these shoes because this and that, and they're falling apart. And you sold me a piece of junk. This computer doesn't work, when most of the time it was their problem. Those are the real challenges. When you can take someone, and someone at YouTube did the same thing. He used to have trolls coming in all the time. And I was like, why aren't you just getting rid of them? He's like, because I'm going to try to flip them first. I'm going to try to make them laugh. I'm going to try to take them out of their comfort zone and make them laugh. It's not going to work all the time. If they're hell-bent on giving you crap, they're going to do it. But every once in a while, he would get someone to go, yeah, that's funny, and stick around. And if you can turn someone who didn't like your product into a loyal person that continues to buy off of you, that is selling. That's the tough job. If you can turn a troll into a subscriber, that is something that's not easy to do. And, it's the message that I want to give across to people, every time I go live. And even though I've done it thousands of times, I don't put myself, I think I could be a lot bigger on YouTube if I really wanted to be, but I'm happy right where I'm at. I reached all my goals the first year. I wanted, 50 some people in my community, and I wanted the 100 subscribers so I could, because that was the first threshold when on YouTube.
Yeah.
But the next thing you know, I got to 1,000, then to 2,000. And if I pushed enough, and my health holds me back, like I can't stream every day. If my back's bad and this and that, I can't do it. If my stomach's real bad that day, I can't be running to the bathroom every 5 minutes during a live stream. So there was times where I had to take a break. And for anyone who does content, online, sometimes it's okay to take a break, whether it's a physical reason or a mental reason. Maybe you just need a break. You're burnt out. And refresh, come back. So now between all the different podcasts that I do and the video game and all the side hustles that I got, I'm happier now than I've been in decades. Like I said, I'd rather say I'm blessed to have been able to do all those things instead of saying, why can't I have this now? Or why can't I still be doing this or that? Honestly, I wouldn't want to work retail anymore, working with the general public. I mean, it's changed so much.
It definitely has.
And we can talk about cards because that's one of my passions too. The sports collecting industry makes me sick right now, the way it has become. It really does. And people like Anthony and people from the Washington card and the Pittsburgh card show and stuff, they brought me back into this. When COVID hit, and I told a million people that, because I used to be one that every week I'd go to the flea markets, I'd go to the car auctions where they did it, I'd go to the shows in Pittsburgh and sell cards, because it's the cycle. You sell the ones and you buy the other ones you want. You trade for these and you keep the cycle going. It's always like a hamster spinning a wheel though, because it's hard to make money if you keep reinvesting. And I always say it's gone from collecting to investing, because everything started to become worth money in the 90s and stuff, to now it's straight up gambling. And I'm not a gambler. I'm not going to buy a $200 hobby box. I've collected for 40 years. I told Anthony and I've never spent over $100 on a card in my entire life. Never. I don't want to. I'd rather invest in one player before they're a rookie, before they blow up, if I think they're going to, and buy all their cards at $1 and be able to sell them all at $5. I can sit here and say, I wish I had my Jordan rookies again, because yes, I had 2 sets of 86 Fleer basketball. I had 3 Jordan rookies. I bought them out of a pack for 75 cents.
That's awesome.
I sold the set for $100, which now would be worth thousands and thousands. I sold a Jordan for $100 at a flea market. But none of them were in great condition. Number one, if you know 86 Fleer basketball, the red borders and the way people handled cards back then. Hell, I used to set up a baseball field on the floor with paper and books, and I would take the cards and hit a little rubber, thing as a baseball. I'd play with them.
Yeah.
You hear the old stuff about people putting the cards in the spokes of their bikes and stuff.
Yep.
But I love the industry, and I've told people at card shows, I hate to say anything bad came from COVID, but the card boom came back because of COVID.
Yeah.
It put so many people back into the hobby and made it explode. But then
it put a bunch of them in the wrong way.
Yes. It brought people in who are just in it for money.
Yeah.
Like when I see someone, and I'm going to grab, I got junk wax over here I opened during my thing. When I see someone open a pack of cards, this is 91 Pops football, basically nothing, online, and go like this and just pull out that one, I get sick in my stomach. What about the rest of these cards? You're just going for the one hit. Yep. Plus, like I said, I'm a graphic designer. I love the design. I look for the color scheme. I look for what information's on the back. I want to know the stats of the player. I'm not just going for the purple elephant variant glimmer glamour card. I don't care. I'm the one that collect from packs to get the whole set.
Yeah.
Or just your favorite player, or try to get the team set of your favorite player. That's where my passion comes from. I'm old school, but I get the money part. I understand. I have a friend that collects, and he's only collected for 4 years. And he had a case in one of the Washington shows, over $1 million worth of cards in his case. They were all RPAs. They were all autographs, all one of ones or numbered cards and stuff. And I was like, that's crazy, because he had enough money, because he's a gambler. So he's a literal gambler, cards and everything. So it sucks for the casual collector. When COVID hit, And I was talking to Anthony and other people. All I wanted to do was open a box. I wanted wax. I couldn't find it.
No.
I didn't care if it was the lowest brand and all base. I couldn't find it.
Yep.
There was none, unless you knew someone that worked at Target or Walmart, or you went there at 5 a.m. every day. I'm glad that phase kind of went away.
Yeah. Well, and like you said, it was interesting. I'd see it too. You'd see, 2 or 3 guys just sitting there on their phone right next to the aisle, just waiting because they know that Mary or Bill, the rep normally hits the store at about wait a minute, it's 11:40. Usually Mary or Bill are here at about 11:50. We got like 10 more minutes, and we'll sit here and wait. And it's it's crazy what it turned into. At least it's, I don't know, I don't want to say normal because that's definitely not the right word completely, but it is a little more normalized now to pre-COVID stuff. Where if you want to find something, you can.
If you crunch the numbers from the value of some of those cards, like I always use Luka Doncic as an example, how his cards went through the freaking roof. And they all leveled off. A lot of other players, same thing. It was so much for me that I had to go just football and basketball. I stopped collecting hockey and baseball completely. As much as I love the sports, I was like, I can only afford 1 or 2 sports anyway, so I just got to collect my favorites. And what are we looking at now? We're going to look at overproduction again, the new junk wax era. It's going to be everywhere. And now, and I've talked to Anthony, and this CT scanning boxes to find out where the hits are. That makes me sick.
It's crazy.
Just
but with you, right? You say, with the draw of wrestling, with the video games, stuff like that, is wrestling a part of your collecting also?
Yeah, I have the 1985 Topps complete set. I have. I just did a stream not long ago on my channel because the Blaised Radio came from a friend of mine whose name was Blaise. It's not really my real name to pull the curtain behind. It's my online name. Blaise was a guy in college. His name was Blaise. And the radio my channel was supposed to be just my voice because people saying you got a radio voice. So it was just Blaised Radio. I never intended to be on video. Because the video game, you just play the video game and I do the commentary. Because like when you watch a wrestling show, you don't see the commentators the whole time. But I have tons. I have a set of All-Star cards from All-Star Wrestling magazine.
Oh wow!
Unfortunately, I cut them out. They're not still in the magazine. But it's like there was even those cards you can go on eBay and get for not a lot of money. The stuff in the 80s and 90s. As much as I remember when Upper Deck first came out, and a friend of mine has hundreds of sets of 89 Upper Deck baseball. This is going to be big. This is changing the game. Look how glossy they are. Look how nice they are. This Griffey card is going to put my kids through college. None of those cards put kids through college.
No.
And now
those are far and few in between now.
Yeah, and it's there, and it's that makes me sick. So I pick certain players that I want. Like I collected Tyrese Maxey a year and a half ago before he blew up. I had a feeling. I knew he was going to be good. He was on the right team. I'm a Kentucky fan. So I started going eBay, getting him for 50 cents, 25 cents, $1 for all of his rookie cards. My next one is Matas Bucelis. I might be wrong, but that kid has skills. He's with the Bulls now. He had bad knees, so he dropped in the draft. But if you can get his rookie cards for under $1 now, and he becomes one of the best in the league, you're going to sell him for $10 or $15, $20 down the road.
Yeah.
Sure.
So I'm recollecting a lot of, at the last card show, I got my Mattingly 84 Donruss that I didn't have. I couldn't recollect. I finally got that back. And it's not in the best condition. It's off-centered. It's got a bad corner. But I got it for $40. The guy was like, he said 50. I only had $40 left at the show. I said, I literally only have $40 and I need money for Popeye's chicken after this. I'll be honest with you. And he was like, all right, 40. Ricky Henderson, 1980. I collected the 1980 baseball set from PAX. And that's back in the day where you're like down to 5 cards and you can't go online and buy those cards.
No.
You had to go to every flea market, every show, and hope they had common cards there and that you could get those last 5 cards that you just couldn't find. I finally got that set. And then this is one of my sad stories about collecting. I was selling. I had a table at Green Tree Marriott in Pittsburgh, one of the bigger shows back in the day, and it got stolen. My prized possession, my complete 1980s top set. It was my fault. I had it sitting up on a rack right in front, and I took it for granted. I turned around, and this is in like a hotel. Everything's crammed in one of those conference rooms, back to back. People were looking at cards. I turned around to help out another dealer. I turned around and it was gone. There was no way of finding who took it. My heart just sunk, and I was hoping to sell it for a lot of money, but that was my prized possession. And I wouldn't be mad if I didn't sell it. So, as a collector like that, I didn't want to give up on the hobby. I really didn't. As much as I could say negative things I don't like about it, that's what I do. And wrestling, when I talked about wrestling on my podcast, everyone wants to bitch and complain and moan about how things should be, or how they don't like this and they don't like that, and this should be that way, or I'm WWE, not AEW, I'm AEW, not WWE. I was the one that always wanted to point out, here's what I liked about the show last week. I don't want to talk about the bad stuff.
Yeah.
There's enough bad stuff in real life. That's my entertainment. And it started to disgust me the more I started to learn, because when I get into something, I dive deep. And if I was going to be a host of a wrestling podcast, I followed every wrestling podcast out there, and I studied the game to a T. Then I realized how toxic it was and how people were just making news just to get news out there. So I'm happy that I got to do the podcast with guys that have been in the ring with AJ Styles and CM Punk and Dolph Ziggler and all that stuff. People that have been in the ring with guys like Tony Hansen.
So would you say that, from starting that podcast, that looking at others and studying others, that did that help you become, more successful? Did it teach you, like, hey, not only what to do, but hey, stay away from these types of things?
Yes, I live by that moniker. And that's what, even when I got into the YouTube, I didn't just open my YouTube channel right away. 9 months. I call it having my YouTube baby. For 9 months, I studied YouTube. I watched how moderators and live chats worked, how people did, what type, how they talked, what they did. And yeah, I studied the wrestling game so much, and I wanted to do something different. So in most wrestling podcasts are just, here's what happened last night. Match number 1. This guy fought that guy, and this guy did this move and won. Then this guy came out and cut a promo. This is what I think about it. I hated this and I hated that. That's all they did was recap what happened. Or here's what's going to happen this weekend. I think this guy's going to win. That guy's going to win. I wanted to do something different. So we had like one podcast, which was like the greatest tag teams of all time. And we debated it and we talked about it. And I brought a 50 list up. We did top stables, or who's your favorite female wrestler of all time. We did the history of the cage match, which I learned so much about different types of cage matches and how it started. And then you get into the chambers and the Hell in a Cell and all different types of steel structures. So I wanted to do it differently. And even to this day, and as humble as I am, it's hard to do this. I would put my podcast up against anybody's, because number one, you had a host that did a ton of homework. You had 3 guys that are in the business, that have put the rings together, that have met the guys in the back, that have learned how, there's a lot of people that they call them smart marks that come out here and think they know everything. Until you've been into, and Anthony can attone to this, until you're in the back with the wrestlers, watching them try to put together a show and talk to each other and balance their egos. Hard to understand what goes into a real professional wrestling show until you've seen it. I just got a little taste of it. I got the ring announced twice in 2 different shows. And the second time I did it, Anthony was actually there. I hit it pretty good, but my back went out when I was supposed to, as the ring announcer, hold the hand the titles to the champs. I couldn't get to the ring. I almost fell over. And I'm here holding 2. This is one of the first times I've ever held real championship belts too, So I was just happy to be able to do it. The first time I did it, it's funny because I'm 6'3", I'm tall. I got real long legs. I wanted to be the first ring announcer to do the Kevin Nash step over the top rope into the ring. So I did have one of the announcer guys, my friend Doc, say, you might not want to do that because the eyes are supposed to be on the wrestlers, not the ring announcer. I was like, I get it. But I announced the wrong person coming out. They gave me a shot sheet, and it was this guy coming out first and the next guy. I said the second guy first. This guy was like the beast, or I forget what he was called, but he was this big, angry dude who, as soon as he got into the ring, got right up into my face. I'm going, oh, crap, I'm done. But afterwards, it's like pat on the back. Good job. I got to do part of an angle in one of the ones where one of the guys comes up and rips the mic out of my hand and, shoves me into the corner, and I have to get out of the ring before the schmoz happens. And I've stepped into a wrestling ring twice. Like, there's kids, they let kids into the ring after the indie shows, and I've only done it twice, and it's to do my job. And was I nervous? Sure. But having people consistently tell you you're good at something helps bring your confidence back. I've never been cocky, but when I get my confidence, watch out, because I want to put on a hell of a show. I want to entertain you. I look at three things in a wrestling show. I look for three things. I want to be entertained, I want to be amused, and I want to be surprised. If you can give me those three things in a wrestling show, that's a success. And that's what I bring to this video game. That people are like, what? You do commentary over a video game? That's stupid. That sounds like something little kids should do. Do yourself a favor. Come and watch one of my shows and then judge it.
Yeah, but I think even, where you're different than, let's say, someone who actually watches, you don't have any, well, maybe you do, and correct me, but let me ask you, I'll ask you a question rather than make a statement. Do you have any insight to the people that are going to come on your podcast, your show, and fight in the ring, play the video game?
Number one, what I do is I realized that people were just saying, oh, you're in my live chat. How do you download your character? Okay, you're on the show. And I was like, they were letting people in they shouldn't let into their little circle. So I went back to my career and said, why not do a background check on these people first? So I sent out an application to them, going back all the way back to that IWA, how to sign up. I want to know your name. I want to know where you're from. If you don't want to give some of this information, that's fine. Because a lot of people, they're living their fantasy life in this. It's Dungeons and Dragons, like I said. They don't want to know who you are. They might not want to forget. I've got people that are in wheelchairs. They can't talk. They can't barely see, but they do their own shows. They have their own fun. So people send me back information. I got their name, their height, their weight, their nickname, what their special moves are, on a piece of paper. So I have all the information about the character, but I don't know who's going to win. I have no idea. It's all up to the game. I mean, you program your character to have these certain moves, have this personality, and the game is so intricate that you can differentiate a big guy from a high flyer to a fighter that just punches, different strikers. So you get your own personality. And what I love to do, and like I said, I'm very organized. I have every show that I do on paper, the match card, how it's laying out, so I want to come prepared. And then I started to see people doing their own shows after watching me. Some inspiring people.
Yeah.
And some of these people, like I said, they're homebound. There's a couple people that are autistic. I've learned a lot about Asperger's. I have a couple friends that have that. They are savants, some of the most brilliant people I've ever met. They can tell you what happened in the 2015 video game and how it was set up. I can't tell you what I had for dinner yesterday. Yeah. So meeting different people and bringing them together, it goes back to everything I learned in my life. If I wouldn't have lost those jobs, if I wouldn't have gone through those marriages, if I wouldn't have dealt with those injuries, I wouldn't be the man I am now. I wouldn't be the person I am. And people have told me you wouldn't be able to do it. You're not going to get monetized off of a video game. Little did they know, I had a lot of experiences in interviewing and podcasting and managing people is what I think I do best, is bringing different types of people together, no matter what you believe in, no matter how you've been brought up or where you at, to have someone to go live, to give people, even those that are listening, an idea of the feeling, to go live on a live stream in the middle of the day and have someone in New Zealand and the UK and Canada all in your chat at the same time blows my mind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then they're starting their own channels and shows. Like, I can name a dozen channels, and I don't want to say it's because of me, but I may have inspired them to try to start it themselves.
That's awesome, man.
And if I just did it and think I'm the best and I'm this, I'm that, I don't think I would have got through to a lot of people. So and I'll give one of my friends, Sean, a little gratitude. Be yourself a little more instead of just being the commentator all the time. And I thought about it. How can I incorporate that in? And I did let myself out, and I started pull back the curtain and tell them how I was doing it, how I did this, how I did that. And I started my little talk show about the game where people could come on, be their character and cut a promo. And now with AI, they can just type it out with whatever voice they want. Because I have some men that have female characters, some females that have male characters, because they're living out their fantasies. They want to be something different, or they're just themselves. And the individuals I've met, I am just so lucky to have these friends on here. And I count you two as ones too. If I would have never met Anthony, I'd have never met you, Michael. And I off stream and on stream, I've said the honesty and the way Michael presents himself is rare here on YouTube and in this industry. The personality that Anthony has and the forgiving nature and the way he just is so understanding. I know this is supposed to be about me, but these are two individuals that are doing amazing work. You're doing God's work right now, bringing people together and learning how to achieve when maybe you don't think you were supposed to.
For sure.
No, I mean, hey, it's crazy how things, go ahead and come together, and how everything, as you sit back and you start to look at things, you do see how there are more things intertwined together and we're not talking about, a massive net. We're talking about maybe just one little piece that goes ahead and connects a whole bunch of things. And next thing you know, you develop I don't want to say a network, but you develop what you said, the friendships, you develop the working, you develop the camaraderie, you develop that, for lack of better, you develop the community.
We have a community.
And then people just they talk and they look out for each other. Hey, how you doing? You okay? And hey, I haven't seen so-and-so on a live stream for a while. And you reach out, because to your point, it's easy to go ahead and be egotistical and say, hey, they're only here for me. Yeah. And you know what? I don't have to worry about what's on the other side. I don't have to worry about the other people. But the truth is, you know what? You should, and you do, and you notice things, and all of a sudden you're like, hey, what happened to so-and-so? Why is this person around? Hey, has anybody heard? Then you start talking to the community, and then finally it goes, oh yeah, hey, so you know what? His computer broke. Oh, okay, good, thank goodness. Something along those lines. It's nothing, bad or anything.
Unfortunately, we have had some instances that we've had a few people in the community pass away. I mean, when you deal with a lot of people that deal with whatever they deal with, and you start to realize on YouTube, like, how is this person at every one of my live shows? He doesn't have a job. He doesn't have a family. It's someone who's available pretty much 24/7, and I'm their entertainment. So through that, I've gained a lot of patience. I've gained a lot of thick skin, and I've created a community. It really is. And I have a Facebook private chat. I have a Discord server now where we chat about things, and we started on Skype. So we have a Skype group. I have a Twitter messaging where, and sometimes, and I always tell people my DMs are open, whether it's in-game stuff or real life. And I'd rather them bring the real life stuff to me privately instead of, because you have people coming in going, oh, I had a bad day. This is going on with me and that. It's like, yeah. And we feel bad and we want to give you that happiness, but there might be someone else in here that's dealing with a lot worse.
Yep.
Someone come in and said, oh, this celebrity passed away. And I have I'd never disrespect anyone that passes away, but isn't like your grandfather that's sick or your brother that just passed away a little more important than a music person or a sports athlete that passed away? I mean, let's be real. People that are 95 years old and they were movie stars or musicians or sports athletes, they lived the life. We talk about sports athletes all the time. And I was in Division II basketball. I actually tried out for IUP my third year because I got into shape. I was winning dunk competitions. I was playing with the players on, they were like, try out. You should try out. You should try out. So I tried out one year, and there was 4 of us that tried out. And I was wondering why the coach was sitting over there reading the paper most of the time instead of paying attention to us trying out. And then I got all the players come up to me and go, you made it. You're definitely the one that made it. So before hearing that I made the team, 2 guys that were on scholarship and they were injured, they got cleared. So their spots opened back up. They didn't bring any walk-ons that year. So that was the bad luck that I had. I went through 6 months of training. I built all kind of muscle. I was working out with the team every day. You know, I got to see just a small bit of it. The team went to the Final Four that year in Division II also. So I could have been a part of it. I sat on the bench, but I would have loved it. But I got to see, like, you talk about NIL and how players should be paid, which I agree they should be, because think about it. The kid that goes to college and works in the cafeteria, he gets minimum wage. The kid that works at the library, he gets paid.
Yeah.
But the players don't get crap, and they're bringing in millions of dollars. You know, so I agree players should get paid, but the system is a complete mess right now.
Oh, yeah,
so
for sure.
I made friends with the star player. He was from around the same area I'm at. So one day, star player and me go walk into the coach's office. He's like, hold on, wait outside for a second. Goes in, talks to the coach, comes back out, 5 crisp $100 bills. We're going to the mall. What do you want? So were players getting paid? If they were getting paid on a Division II small level, just imagine boosters, coaches, fans were doing for athletes in these colleges. So I just got a small taste. That's why I have such a respect for professional athletes. I talked on a podcast last week on the Pick and Roll on Wednesdays. I said, you know what irks me? When fans say this player sucks or they're horrible or they're terrible. They wouldn't be a professional if they were terrible or horrible. They may be playing terrible. They may have a bad day. But and that's hard for fans, because fans are really into it. For a fan to understand, I get so much kickback from this, but I'm saying you can't say that a player sucks or they're terrible. You can't, because they wouldn't be a pro if they were terrible at what they did. And that's hard for fans to swallow, but it's true. There's hundreds of thousands of kids that wish they were in that spot as a professional athlete. We were talking about Ben Simmons yesterday. He's terrible. He never lived up to his potential. He's horrible. He wouldn't be a pro if he was horrible at what he did. They're the best in the world at what they do at a professional level. But some of them stink or playing bad. So I'm trying to think a little differently, because you get a little taste of it. As a fan, as a sports fanatic, literally taking that word, you got to realize, going back to, they get treated like kings and queens their entire life. That guy I knew, he never paid for a meal. He got me into every party in that college, every sorority, every frat. They got hand and foot. They were treated like gods on campuses. So you have someone telling you you're great and you're good and you're this and you're that, praising you all the time. I can see why they get egos. Yeah. Same thing with YouTube and stuff like this. When people get quote unquote big on YouTube, I've seen so many people, once they get to 10,000, 20,000, 30,000, and in the 100,000s, they change. Not all of them. Very few do I watch now, but I've seen people change once they get that quote unquote fandom. They get so many people relying on them. They think they're bigger than the system. And I never want to get that way. That's why I'm happy where I'm at. I think sometimes in life, you got to just be happy where you're at. I don't know. Do you guys have any questions for me? I feel like
yeah, actually, we have 2 questions we like to do towards the end of the podcast.
Sure.
These actually both revolve around wrestling, since I know you're a huge wrestling fan.
Sure.
The first one is called No Dumb Questions. We let a audience member submit a question to our future guest. This one, the audience member wants to know who your all-time favorite wrestler is and why.
Okay, I've answered this question a lot, and it's tough to put it down to one, because I have favorites from the past and current favorites. So, plus I have a tag team favorite and a singles favorite. So to sum it up, I would have to have what's the monument with the 4 heads?
Mount Rushmore.
I have a Rushmore. I have a Mount Rushmore. I was drawing a brain fart. And I knew that we wouldn't be able to keep this within 30 and 40 minutes. Sorry, Anthony. No, I talk and I want to share my story, and I get passionate about it. And you guys are very easy to talk to. As far as a tag team, I'd put on my Mount Rushmore, Road Warriors, by far. No one's even close. They're
Heck
the
yeah.
best tag team in the history. A lot of people
Got
say
that right.
Dudley's because of titles and Hardys and Usos and all that. The Road Warriors changed the game. They took it from just regular wrestlers to guys chiseled out of stone, that would just beasts, and the aura that they had. I mean, right now the word aura and story is so worn out anymore in wrestling, but they had and yeet is worn out too. but they just, if you go back and watch when Iron Man hits and they come out with the spike shoulder pads, like, I don't even like calling them the Legion of Doom. They're the Road Warriors to me.
Yep.
Like a lot of those guys got watered down when they came over to WWF for WWE. So I would definitely put the Road Warriors up there. A lot of people don't like him now, but Ric Flair, what he's done as a good guy and a bad guy, the dirtiest player in the game, he's the type of guy who would cut that promo that would be like, wow, back in the day. And, he still could. Like, a lot of people, because of personal beliefs, are still trying to wrestle at 80 or whatever and stuff like that. People don't realize what he's done for the industry.
Heck yeah.
So I got to put Flair on there, I guess, is my bad guy. Because a Horseman, NWO, everything in WWE to me was just, I was a WCW guy. I didn't watch the Attitude Era. And this gets a lot of wrestling fans mad, but I don't like HBK. I don't like Bret Hart. They're great wrestlers. They're amazing performers. Not my cup of tea. Kane wasn't my cup of tea, and Undertaker, although they're phenomenal performers. My favorite of all favorites is probably Sting. I put Jericho close to because of the same reason. They evolved their character, and they could get anything over. Sting was the Surfer Sting, the Crow, the Joker. He was so many different personas, and people gave him a lot of crap for what he did in AEW, but that was because he wanted to. He wanted to jump off the balconies and go through tables at 62.
Yeah.
But people knocked him for it, but that's like telling Tua Tagovailoa that he can't wrestle, that he can't play football anymore because of his concussions. Yes, he probably shouldn't, but that's what he's done his whole life.
Yeah.
To tell Ric Flair he can't have one last match, that's what he knows. That's his life. And as much as a womanizer and a piece of crap he must have been as a human being, what he did for the industry was amazing. And
especially when it wasn't, when there was really no TV to it too, or very, very little. Well, it was very little because it was so regionalized with the TV, so you didn't
I'm a
know.
Dusty Rhodes. I have to put Dusty Rhodes up there. I always love what Dusty did as a big man, did things big man shouldn't do. He was the original Hulk Hogan. I learned that from the old Vince documentary. He was the first choice. A lot of people say that's why Vince put him in the polka dots and crap, because he said no, he didn't want to be the first Hulk Hogan, but Hogan ended up being it. But, Sting, I'd say Sting, Flair, and the Road Warriors. And nowadays I have a lot of, like, now I like AJ Styles. I like Randy Orton. I like a lot of guys nowadays. A lot of the female wrestlers I like are from back in the day, not now. But a lot of them are now. It's crazy. Willow Nightingale. I love what she does. It's changed so much to, like, back in the day, everyone had a job. There was a plumber. There was a garbage man. There was there were so many stereotypes. They put all the Mexicans together. They put all the black people together. And so, to a point that makes sense. You get it. But when you learn about, they always say, be careful if you learn about your heroes. You might not, like what you find out. I like these people because they're entertainers, because they make me laugh. They entertain me. You dig deep into the Ty Cobbs, the Babe Ruths. They were good human beings.
Right.
True.
And they were smoking, drinking, woman-beating gamblers. They weren't great people, but they were amazing at the sport. And they got away with a lot more back in the day. You didn't have social media and people following you around with 85 cameras and stuff. And that goes back to, like, when celebrities pass away and people there are like, oh my God, I can't believe a 99-year-old, movie star died. Well, they had a hell of a life. And I bet you 1 million people would have took their place. Rest in peace, Dikembe Mutombo passed away today. And that's like, we're going to talk about him on Wednesday on the podcast. The guy is one of the few people who gave his money back to help people. You didn't see him wearing jewelry and driving the big cars. He was helping people over in third world countries.
Yep.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, what's the other question?
And I think, well,
okay.
just more quick, and I think the way this changes, you look at, if you ever want, and for those of you that want to see with the wrestling how much it has changed, just look at YouTube and everything, and just look at the actual, for lack of better words, shapes of the wrestlers.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Haystacks Calhoun, 601 pounds.
And even
You
the
know what I'm
ladies, I
saying?
mean, back in the brawn panties days when it's all sexualized, they
Yeah.
still have to be good looking or something because you're
Yeah.
presenting yourself on television.
Yeah.
But I ain't messing with Shayna Baszler.
No.
I'm not messing with
for
these
sure.
people. Like, I love Roman and Cody. And a lot of people don't understand how I can like both of them. I don't have to pick a side. And that's how I preached in my podcast too. When I did my wrestling podcast, and even the guys that were on with me, they were like, "Why are you so positive, all light and sunshine?" Because I want to talk about what entertained me, what was good. And a lot of, like you were talking about, the social media ruins it. About the surprise because it's all over social media that day. All the speculation and all the media, like they call it the IWC, the Internet Wrestling Community. And it's not a community, because the definition of community is people of similar taste that work together. The Internet Wrestling community is toxic as all hell.
Oh, yeah.
Because if you like AEW, you can't like here. You're this, you don't like that. You can't like them, or you got to hate Tony Khan, or you got to hate Vince McMahon. I can like whatever. I always say Wrestle Sense was the name of our podcast, and it was for a reason. Your Wrestle Sense is like who you want to like, hate who you want to hate, cheer who you want to cheer, boo who you want to boo. Your opinion is right. Wrestling is 100% subjective. You can talk to 50 different people. That same question, you're going to get a bunch of different answers.
Oh, yeah.
You don't have to agree with it, but that's what's wrong with the wrestling community. People are just so much like, if you don't like this person or that or this and that, you're not a wrestling fan or this. You're allowed to like whatever you want to like. And I was the odd man out when it came to that on the podcast, because those guys wanted to debate and say, nah, their opinions are crap. Their opinion's wrong. I was like, I respect everyone's opinion. I might not have to agree with it, but I respect your opinion. That's what makes these platforms beautiful. Looking back real quick at my history, sports, computers, cell phones. I watched the social media world get bigger and bigger and bigger. There's many people that say it's toxic, it's horrible, it's this. You know why? There's no class in high school or 5th grade teaching you how to handle social media. Why aren't we teaching that? We should have been teaching that during the PC boom. Here's AOL. This is how to do, this is how to do that. This is how to handle that. Here's, we were never taught. We were just thrown into the fire. Kid, there's a 15-year-old kid somewhere right now pretending he's a 45-year-old woman. There's a 50-year-old man pretending he's a 12-year-old girl. There's a 30-year-old guy pretending he's still in high school. You can be that's why one thing I hate about YouTube is the anonymity.
Yep.
Is that I can set up 2 YouTube accounts right now, one called Huddle Card Collecting and one called Picksburgh. I can take your pictures and put them right on there. I can go into people's chat and say whatever I want, and they'll think it's you. But here's the thing. When I studied YouTube, I realized when someone comes in your chat and they try to troll you or do this, you click on those 3 little dots and you go look at their channel. You'll be amazed what you can find out sometimes. Mm-hmm. Maybe they don't have a channel. Maybe they have a channel. They have some content where you can tell what they're going through in their life just by looking at their channel. You can see what they like. So why not check that first? We were never taught how to handle social media. That's why a lot of people handle it wrong.
Excuse me.
It's a good point. Last question for you on my end. This is our final segment. It's called We Have to Ask, but You Don't Have to Answer.
Fair.
And it's also based off of wrestling. And again, you don't have to answer it. If you want to answer part of it, not answer the other half, you don't have to.
I like
it. Being a wrestling fan, if you had free range to hit any wrestling move on any person in the entire world, living or dead, what would the wrestling move be, and who would you hit it on?
I would DDT Jake Roberts.
That was like,
damn, that was simple.
And it's in my head because at the Washington Card Show last time, he was there. It was Jimmy Hart, it was Jake Roberts, and Wendy Richter. Like, my childhood was right there.
Yeah.
I wasn't sorry. Bryce and Mark. I wasn't paying $60 to get an autograph, but just to see, and they had a lot of people that did, God bless them. But to see Wendy Richter's the one to me who made women's wrestling because she was a badass. Jake the Snake, he's older and he's not in a greatest health, but to see him like brought back so much. And it's like, I was also trying to think with my physical problems, what I could actually do. Like, I'm not power bombing nobody.
Yeah.
I'm not body. I don't want to, not that I didn't like Jake, but I think about the DDT and how it's like a common move now. But when he did it, it was like, it's over. Like, if he hits you in a DDT, there's no kicking out of it. Like, nowadays, people have to, like, you see Cody hit 4 crossroads before he's pinning someone now.
Yep.
It's like, it's so, but it's supposed to be bigger than life. It's supposed to be a spectacle. Like, I don't not like WWE. It's the best, the greatest, the biggest spectacle you'll ever see. This is a sad story. I had free tickets to WrestleMania this year in Philly. And this is going back to meeting people online and not realizing. When I started my eFed, there was a guy in Canada that I met that used to write matches for me. I never met this guy. I've never seen him. I've seen him on social media. But when the Philly one was announced, our podcast was already done. So we were going to go, but we ended up not going because our podcast was done. He sends me a message and goes, my best friend can't go. And I know you're a big wrestling fan. Do you want to go to WrestleMania? I was like, wow, my health. I can't drive there. I'd have to fly. I'd have to get a place to stay. He's like, I'll do you one better. We have a B&B. You can stay there for free. So I was getting a free ticket and a free place to stay. And me, out of my kind heart, I was going to feed this dude all week. He wasn't paying for anything at the bar or at the restaurant. All I had to do was buy a plane ticket. So here's a case of bad luck, and there's nothing you can do about it. He calls me 3 days before the show. He has COVID. He flew from Canada to Philly, watched the ECW show at the ECW Arena. They had a reunion show. He went to SmackDown, and he got COVID. So he couldn't go anywhere. He was quarantined.
Oh.
So I couldn't go there. And I was trying to think, how can I still go there? Can I just meet you somewhere and get the ticket? And I was like, well, I can't. He's leaving. Because he has to stay there first through that and not go. So then I call Expedia to get my plane ticket refund. It's non-refundable.
Oh no.
So instead of getting a couple $1,000 worth of free stuff, I lost for $400.
That sucks.
Yeah.
For someone who doesn't have like money flying out of his pockets, it was like, can I get some of this loyalty cashed into real currency? Yeah. So it was one of those things where life is more important. Yeah, it would have been great to finally go to a WrestleMania, see the spectacle, see the fireworks and everything, and meet. I was going to meet 4 different YouTubers that are from Philly. I was going to meet some of the guys, the wrestling podcaster and 2 of the sports guys that I do shows with. I was ecstatic. I couldn't wait, but 2 days before I had to cancel.
Bummer,
man. Michael, do you have any final questions for Blaise before we let him go today?
I do not. Just want to say, hey, thank you very much for giving us of your time. We understand, that it's not, time is precious to everybody, and we want to just say thank you very much for giving us your time tonight.
My pleasure. It was, like I said, as a person who wears his emotions on his sleeve, obviously, as one, and a person that prides himself in one thing, and that's being humble. Because, I've been humbled a bunch and I've found ways to overcome. And just the theme of this podcast and knowing you two and how you run your shows and your channels, I couldn't miss this for the world, and to share my story with people that are understanding, loving people like you who do the same thing, who kind of understand as sports fans, as wrestling fans, as card collectors. I mean, you guys have met how many card collectors, and a lot of them are stingy guys that are just trying to make a buck. They're shysters. I had one at home. We had 2 card shops in my hometown. One was the nicest guy. One was such a shyster that's all he was out to do is swindle you and get you to. And I tried to get the kids in the neighborhood that didn't know any better about their cards and get them off of them. That was part of the game. But as a humble person, it's not easy to talk about myself and everything I've been through, but I think that's the message I want to give to everybody is don't be afraid to step out of your comfort zone every once in a while and share your experiences. You never know when it might affect someone in a positive way, and help them realize that, things are really important in life that can get you down, but it can get better, and it will get better if you want it to.
That's awesome, man. And Michael, before we let Blaise go, do you have anything new coming up on Huddle Card Collection?
No, like I said, come for sports card collecting, content, everything. Love to have everybody over. We are getting so close to 500 subscribers. So hopefully by the time this airs, maybe we'll hit that little, that little milestone. But yeah, just thanks a lot for everything.
Like and subscribe now.
How about you, Blaise? Anything new coming up on your channel?
Well, I have a weekly schedule where every Tuesday around 6 p.m. I'll do my little EFED thing where we bring everyone together and just have fun for a few hours. I lose my voice. I go crazy. I yell and scream. But my number one thing is engaging with the chat. I've seen a lot of people who ignore the chat or don't get to the comments. That's why I'm here. So if you come to my channel, Blaised Radio, there's a reason I named it that, because if you search YouTube for BLAISED, Blaised Radio, I've been called Blessed Radio, Biased Radio, but it's for a reason. It gets you saying my name, and make sure you get it right. Sean Ross Sapp in the wrestling community, he said my name wrong in one of his chats, but I had to correct him, and he had to say it again, and he said I like that. So it's now I'm in his head. So you get into people's heads because I want people to realize it's more than just someone doing it for themselves. I'm doing it for everybody else. So every Tuesday I'm live at around 6 p.m. Eastern. Every Wednesday at 5 p.m. Eastern. I'm also blessed to be a part of the Hardcore Sports Network. We have over 40 different content creators in that network that do football, baseball, basketball, boxing, wrestling. They do play-by-plays. They do watch-alongs. We do the Pick and Roll podcast every Wednesday at 5 p.m. Eastern on my channel and on the Hardcore Sports Network, where I've met some great individuals, even though they're Eagles fans. At the same time, every Sunday, every Thursday night at 8, I also do the wrestling stuff, and Saturday at 4. We do 3 times a week because I have 90. This is one thing I will brag about. A lot of people, they'll create 5 of their own characters or let someone else have 5 or 6. I have 90 different people that literally have one character. So I'm bringing together, plus the extra people, over 100 people to do this. And I beg of you, before you think it's just a stupid video game, come and watch. And same thing on Sundays at 1:00. I do the red zone. So 6, 7, 8, 9 games at once. I'm giving you all the play-by-play, all the touchdowns. I went back to OBS, which is kind of, it's tougher than StreamYards here, but I know it can do a lot more. But every Sunday at 1, if you want alternate commentary, like if you don't like Chris Collinsworth like me, you don't want to hear him spew all his garbage, come listen to me. If you can't see the game that you want to see, come watch Red Zone with me. I'll give you all the stats, all the play-by-play, every touchdown. I had a guy once, my first year doing Red Zone, who says in the chat, "I'm so glad you do this. I'm in the military. I'm in Germany. I can't watch my team. So I'm so glad you're doing this." That just made my heart grow. I was like, wow, this dude's in the military serving for our country, and he's watching me. I always say you could be anywhere, but you're here. And if you're watching this on YouTube, please, whatever channel it's on, make sure you subscribe. Make sure you like. These guys are phenomenal at what they do. Check out my channel, Blaised Radio, as well. There are good, honest people on YouTube trying to entertain you and bring you somewhere to go. I call it escapism. There's enough stuff. I'm going to leave you with my final thing that I say. So no matter what ails you or might be bringing you down, I get emotional again. All right, hold on. So no matter what, I'll get into my radio voice for this. So no matter what ails you or what might be bringing you down, hopefully we can take it away, even just for a little bit. This brings an end to another episode of Leaning Towards Death Wrestling and our limited temporary disconnect. But remember this, we're all leaning towards death. Some are just a little bit closer. Peace and positive vibes, each and every one of you guys and gals in your family. Stay safe and stay tuned to Blaised Radio, hook, line, and sinker, because someone's always about to get blazed.
Awesome, man.
That's awesome.
Appreciate you coming on, man.
Yeah.
Genuinely, it was an honor to have you. The stories you shared are definitely going to touch somebody. I definitely believe that. And
100%.
guys, if you're watching this, make sure you follow Blaised Radio. Make sure you follow Huddle Card Collection. Make sure you subscribe to Picksburgh. And we appreciate you watching another episode. Until next week, God bless you guys. Take it easy.
From the city